The archivists of Kelshara had one sacred duty: to curate the galaxy's history. For 3 million years they had recorded every civilization's rise and fall, cataloging their achievements in the Grand Repository, a quantum archive that existed simultaneously across 17 dimensions. Every species that achieved faster than light travel earned their place in the eternal record. Every species except one. They had voted unanimously to erase humanity. Director Velkoth stood before the consensus chamber, his crystalline form refracting the light of distant stars through the observation dome. "The humans are too dangerous," he declared, his telepathic voice resonating through the minds of the assembled council. "They do not conquer through superior technology or ancient wisdom. They conquer through stories." The other archivists hummed in agreement, their collective consciousness rippling with unease. Humanity had been spacefaring for merely 4 centuries, a cosmic eye blink. Yet they had already disrupted the established order of 6 sectors. Not through warfare, though they excelled at that too. Not through economic dominance, though their markets thrived. They conquered through something far more insidious: narrative. Wherever humans went, their legends followed. Tales of impossible odds overcome through sheer stubbornness. Stories of individuals who changed the fate of worlds. Myths of second chances and redemption arcs. Within a generation of human contact, other species began questioning their own carefully maintained social orders. The hive mind started acknowledging individuals. The pacifist choir of Melodia produced their first warrior in 10,000 years. The fatalistic Grexnari began speaking of hope. "They make others believe they can be more than what they are," Velkoth continued. "They infect entire civilizations with the idea that destiny can be defied, that the powerless can become powerful, that one person can matter. This is not acceptable. We will erase them. Every record, every mention, every trace." The consensus was reached. The quantum keys were turned. Humanity would be removed from history itself as if they had never existed at all. The erasure took 17 seconds. For a moment, the universe adjusted. Trade routes reorganized. Diplomatic relationships realigned. The empty spaces where humanity had been filled with alternative explanations. Other species taking credit for human achievements. The archivists congratulated themselves on a procedure perfectly executed. Then the legends came alive. It started small. A patrol ship near the Andromeda Gate reported an impossible sighting. A vessel matching no known configuration, crewed by a species that shouldn't exist, appearing and disappearing like a ghost. When they tried to pursue, their instruments detected only echoes and static. But every member of that patrol crew swore they heard something. A transmission in a language that felt ancient and new simultaneously, saying, "We're still here." Within weeks, the reports multiplied. A merchant convoy was saved from pirates by mysterious fighters bearing symbols that resembled a blue-green world, circled by a white moon. A colony facing starvation received supply drops from unmarked ships that vanished before they could be thanked. A diplomatic crisis on Trellamora was averted when an unknown mediator appeared, negotiated an impossible peace in 3 hours, then disappeared, leaving only the scent of something called coffee and a saying, "No one gets left behind." The archivists tried to investigate, but their instruments found nothing. No quantum signatures, no dimensional footprints, no evidence of physical existence. Yet the encounters continued, spreading across the galaxy like wildfire. Velkoth realized their mistake too late. They had erased humanity from history, but they couldn't erase humanity from story. And for species across the galaxy who had heard those stories, who had been changed by those narratives, the humans had become something more than historical fact. They had become legend, and legends once believed don't require evidence to exist. The phenomenon escalated. Species that had never met humans began reporting encounters. The tales grew wilder. Humans who walked through walls, who commanded ships with their minds, who could rally entire armies with a single speech. None of it was physically possible, yet thousands swore they had witnessed it. The stories fed on themselves, growing more elaborate with each telling. Then came the convergence. On the old human homeworld, now designated as Unclaimed Territory 4471 in the archivist records, something stirred. The planet should have been empty, its cities crumbling, its oceans stagnant. Instead, lights began to appear in the darkness. Not the lights of technology, but something else. The glow of campfires, the shimmer of gathering places, the luminescence of stories being told. An expedition was sent. They found no physical humans, but they found evidence of presence. Footprints that faded as soon as they were measured. Voices captured on recordings that couldn't be played back. Shadows that moved with purpose. And everywhere, messages scratched into walls, carved into trees, etched into the very bedrock. You can erase the history, but you can't kill the story. We are the species that looked at the stars and decided they were reachable. We are the ones who turned impossible into not yet. We are humanity, and we will never stop reaching. Belkoth stood in the ruins of what had once been a human library, his crystalline form trembling. Around him, members of a dozen species gathered, not scientists or soldiers, but storytellers, bards, historians, believers. "Don't you understand?" one of them said, a young Melodian whose grandmother had met a human traitor once. "You tried to erase them from reality, so they found another way to exist. In our hearts, in our dreams, in every story we tell about overcoming the impossible. The archivists had made humanity immortal by trying to kill them. They had transformed them from a species into an idea, and ideas once unleashed cannot be contained. Today, across the galaxy, when someone faces impossible odds, they invoke the old human prayers. Hold the line. Never give up. One more day. They don't know these words come from a species that was erased from history. They only know these words have power, and sometimes when the odds are truly impossible, when hope seems lost, ships appear bearing impossible symbols, voices whisper impossible encouragements, hands reach out from nowhere to pull the drowning to safety. The archivists tried to erase humanity from history. Instead, they gave them the stars themselves. Because now, humanity doesn't just exist in one timeline, one reality, one dimension. They exist wherever someone tells their story. They exist wherever someone believes one person can make a difference. They exist wherever hope refuses to die. And in the quantum archives of Kelshara, in a section that no one remembers creating, new entries appear each day. Records of a species that never was but always is. The archivists can't delete them anymore. They tried. After all, you can't erase a legend. You can only make it stronger.